anigoo xaskiya boodhka iyo xananka ka dhowraay intay shicib ku sara u xidheen kugu xanaaneeye.
En droit international, un État reconnu en tant que tel dispose d'un territoire et de frontières reconnus par la communauté internationale, d'un gouvernement ayant autorité sur l'ensemble du territoire, d'une constitution appliquée dans tout le pays. Le Somaliland dispose d'un territoire et de frontières reconnus en 1961, d'un gouvernement ayant autorité sur l'ensemble de son territoire, d'une constitution appliquée dans tout le pays, d'une monnaie, d'un système de partis pluralistes, d'un système d'élections libres et mixtes, d'un système éducatif, d'une armée professionnelle et disciplinée, d'une police non armée au service des citoyens, d'une presse libre, d'un hymne national. Au nord de la Corne de l'Afrique, le Somaliland est frontalier avec Djibouti, l'Éthiopie et la Somalie. Le golfe d'Aden, au sud de la mer Rouge, le sépare du Yémen. Sa population est estimée à 3,5 millions d'habitants, dont un tiers concentré dans la capitale Hargeisa. Les activités commerciales du port de Berbera, ainsi que l'élevage, notamment de chameaux et de chèvres, constituent les principales ressources du Somaliland. Pays traditionnellement peuplé d'éleveurs nomades. Officiellement, pour la communauté internationale, le Somaliland fait partie de la Somalie. Il se situe dans une région d'Afrique tristement connue pour ses nombreux conflits. Pour l'ONU, ce pays, le plus stable, le plus démocratique et le plus sûr de la région, n'existe pas. En 1960, le Somaliland, ancienne colonie britannique, devient indépendant. Il est alors reconnu par plus de 33 États, dont les 5 membres permanents. À cette époque, les clans somalis de la Corne de l'Afrique partagent un même idéal anticolonialiste, celui d'un pays fort et libre, la Grande Somalie. C'est dans ce contexte que quelques jours à peine après son indépendance, le Somaliland s'unit à la Somalie du Sud, ancienne colonie italienne, elle aussi indépendante en 1960.
Somaliland gained its independence from the British on 26 June 1960. There was a widespread idea at that time of the unification or the creation of the Greater Somalia that consisted of 5 parts: Somaliland, Somalia, Italian Somalia, French Somaliland, the Ogaden, and the Northern Frontier District of Kenya. That was the dream of all the Somalis, a dream that they shared, a vision that they shared all. We became an independent state of Somaliland. We were recognized by almost 33, 35 countries of the United Nations. Then by 1st July, we merged with Somalia to form the Somali Republic. That was a means to the end. The end was the creation of Greater Somalia. We didn't love Mogadishu, but it was the second country that became independent. So in order to form or to create the Greater Somalia, that was our dream and vision, we joined with Somalia. That was the first step. And we never called it that a union or a unification, but we called it a merger.
Was a state briefly, for a brief period, and recognized by many countries, by the way, including the Permanent Council members. And then when we joined Somalia on 1st of July 1960, that was on the back of a lot of nationalism. The people wanted to, there was a strong feeling of nationalism. People wanted to bring all the territories of Somalia into one state, because there was a bitter feeling against the colonialism at the time and what was happening. But then when we joined Somalia, I think right from the start, many people were disappointed. Many people were disillusioned.
La Somalie unifiée tente d'instaurer un gouvernement démocratique malgré les luttes claniques et les relations tendues avec les pays limitrophes. Puis, en 1969, le général Siad Barre s'empare du pouvoir par un coup d'État et impose une dictature. À cette époque, comme beaucoup d'autres pays, la Somalie se trouve prise dans les intérêts contradictoires de la guerre froide. Et Siad Barre, d'abord soutenu et armé par l'URSS, se rapproche des États-Unis après la guerre contre l'Éthiopie en 1971. Mais, quels que soient ses généreux alliés, Siad Barre, entre 1969 et 1990, est à la tête de l'armée la plus puissante d'Afrique. À la fin des années 80, face aux atrocités et à la corruption de ce régime, entraînant famine et déplacement de population, les clans du Somaliland, mais aussi certains clans de Somalie du Sud, se révoltent. Ils forment ainsi le SNM, Somali National Movement, armé et entraîné par l'Éthiopie. Siad Barre décide alors d'écraser toute résistance en bombardant son propre peuple. S'ensuit une guerre civile qui durera 10 ans et entraînera plus de 80 000 morts.
It was inconceivable that your government, will be killing you. That's incredible. The army that had your flag, and the tanks with the flag on the side, and the airplanes with the flag on the side will be, were bombing the people in the cities,
So we were fighting against Siad Barre with all our resources. We were not fighting with the gun, we were fighting with the song, we were fighting with poetry, we were fighting with everything. You see, we were fighting with the drama. So we had, and most of the poets that took part in the liberation movement, we had from both sexes. The major part was played by men, but there were also women. And then when you are talking about maybe Sado,
Oyala ye, oyala ye, oyala o. Yo oyala ye, oyala ye,
of the transmission that makes sometimes with the sound, with the voice, with the impressions on the face and so on and so forth. So you can ask her to recite one, then you could see the effect. No matter how many barrels of gun or how many mortars or tanks they have, we knew that with the spirit of the people, we will defeat them, and we defeat them.
According to the records, there were only 3,000 SNM soldiers defeating more than 30,000 the southern rulers or soldiers.
And we couldn't have doctors and hospitals. Nothing there was. So much of them, after they injured, they died as anemic or. Yeah, I couldn't see my family around 5 years, from 87 to 91.
Very painful. It my hand automatically gets down.
Yes. The young generation, they know that we were the fighters and we make them a freedom. So they really make us respect. Before, I wouldn't like to be a soldier because just wanted to get the freedom. That is why I was fighting, just to get the freedom. As soon as I get the freedom, 1991, I stopped there. I put the gun down.
Which one is good for us? To take revenge or to forgive the enemy? Then we prefer it to forgive them, because we discuss it. If we want to take revenge enemy, the war will not stop forever. We will start it again. So prefer it to forgive them.
I remember sometimes my friends, those who were died during the war, some of them, they were my best friends. I remember always. But the enemy against us at that time, we forgiven them. Some of them, they are here, but we forgive them.
Of the people, we are collect when he can bomb the air, and also artillery, and also in tanks, So that we are so I'm very sorry about that, because that's the cost the people in Somaliland to separate out of the Somalia. We are like to dead. If one person lives in here, he cannot like to join in Somalia.
Actually, I was arrested and I was in jail for 7 good years, in solitary confinement, tortured, and finally given death sentence. I'm still here, kicking. So any of these people that you see around, everybody has a story, which is, mind-boggling. And sometimes that's what really makes us feel, why is the whole international community, turning the other side? Why are they so blind about these facts? I'm telling you, this town of Hargeisa was leveled to the ground.
Siad Barre applique une stratégie des plus anciennes et des plus efficaces, diviser pour mieux régner. Il entretient les tensions claniques préexistantes, soutient et arme certains clans, en massacre d'autres, créant ainsi la désunion dans les peuples somalis. En 1991, le régime de Siad Barre s'effondre, mais l'union entre le Somaliland et la Somalie du Sud, déchirée et instable, semble définitivement compromise. Afin de regagner la paix civile, le Somaliland s'auto-déclare indépendant pour la 2e fois, dans l'indifférence générale de la communauté internationale. Mais, même libre et indépendant, le Somaliland souffre lui aussi des tensions claniques, exacerbées par Siad Barre. Le processus démocratique est alors entravé par des conflits et des rancœurs qui peinent à disparaître.
Entre 1991 et 1994, il y a eu une véritable guerre civile. Et cette guerre civile, elle avait des lignes de clivage bel et bien claniques. Et justement, tout le travail d'un homme remarquable, qui est le feu Mohamed Ibrahim Egal, son travail a été de mettre fin à cette guerre civile. Et après le grand chir de Borama en 1993, d'amener la fin des hostilités, ce que n'ont jamais réussi à faire les clans du Sud.
Afin de dépasser leurs conflits claniques, les Somalilandais ont mis au point une nouvelle forme de démocratie, inédite et exemplaire, respectant à la fois les coutumes ancestrales et les principes de la démocratie moderne.
I think the main point is that when we established, this democratic structure, we took into account, how to blend the modern system of legislation and our old traditions. That's why today we have a Senate and a House of Representatives. As far as the House of Representatives is concerned, it is elected on the election basis, by the people. As the Senate is concerned, the Senate is the House of Elders, and it has a membership of 81 representatives, and these representatives come from different regions of the country. So here you have a blend, you have a mixture of modern system of legislation and the traditional system of, and I think this has been the most important foundation, because all the communities in the country, in different parts of the country, from the east, from the west, from the center, everywhere are represented in the House of Elders. In fact, this is why Somaliland is often called a successful story. It's a successful story of development, of peace, in Africa.
The 5 major investors, interestingly, are also very diverse. They come from different regions of Somaliland. And we see that also as a strength, a harmony, and a unity kind of concept, whereby people who come from diverse regions and diverse clan bases can do business together and work together, and also, gain together.
Some people, of course, say it's a clan system, but we prefer to say community, of course, to make the system more positive. So I think this is one of the secrets, and also one of the main reasons why Somaliland has been successful. And now there is a trend in many parts of, for example, Africa, in Asia, to follow the example of Somaliland, to re-establish peace, to re-establish reconciliation, to put up, houses of parliament through democratic system, which would represent all sections of population. And this applies especially to countries which have been affected, by wars, by civil wars, unfortunately.
Paradoxalement, en 1991, c'est le désintérêt de la communauté internationale pour le Somaliland qui a permis l'élaboration de cette démocratie. Les grandes puissances n'intervenant pas dans les réunions interclaniques, les Somalilandais ont pu décider seuls de leurs intérêts, contrairement à d'autres pays d'Afrique, notamment la Somalie, qui n'est toujours pas en paix.
Why Somaliland became peaceful, stable, and a democratic state, unlike Somalia, which never came to that stage, was from the beginning, it was the community. We had several community meetings. First one in Burao, and then in Sheikh, and then in Borama, and then in Hargeisa. And in all these meetings in which people reconciled, these were reconciliation meetings, the international community was not involved. And they all happened in Somaliland, inside Somaliland. So it was really the people who came together, who reconciled, who agreed on the system they want to work with. And at the time, I think the international community ignored us. But that was fortunate. We were lucky that they did not intervene. While in Somalia, which had, I think, 14, 15 conferences, all organized by the international community, all organized outside the country, and never succeeded. As a result, because there are a lot of politics going on, there is a lot of interest, not only interest from factions within Somalia, but also some international interest involved. That's why all these conferences, never came to nothing. So that's the main difference, really. We were very fortunate that right from the start, the international community was not involved. And because of that, there was also no need to involve foreign troops in Somaliland.
Mais aujourd'hui, le Somaliland a besoin d'être reconnu pour investir et continuer à se développer. Ce qu'il ne peut pas faire actuellement, puisqu'en tant qu'État non reconnu, il ne peut emprunter auprès des institutions internationales et privées.
And Somaliland have many economic sources. Livestock is prepare board, and Somaliland do not recognize until now.
That is our challenge. And that's why I was saying earlier, because lack of recognition has limited our access to funds and money that we can borrow and then of course pay back. And that's how business grows. You go and get loans, and then you invest in your business and then you pay back. That is an opportunity which is denied to the Somalilanders. So all the business that we are doing with our cash.
Recognition is a problem because we need international investment from the international community, particularly direct foreign investment. But we also need to have access to credit facilities in the World Bank, the African Development Bank. We need to be able to borrow money from these institutions. Now we cannot borrow money from these institutions, and we do not have much direct foreign investment because of the problem of lack of recognition. So that's a major problem which is hindering our progress and development.
Sans aide internationale, l'État somalilandais tente de développer ses infrastructures afin de mieux utiliser ses ressources naturelles. Aujourd'hui sous-exploitées ou au contraire en voie d'épuisement par manque d'équipements adaptés.
Well, we have a very small number of industry in this country. Most of the things we consume are manufactured outside the country. And the main reason why we don't have more industries is because of the cost of energy. Energy is extremely expensive in this country. We are talking about $1 to $1.50 a kilowatt hour. That's very expensive compared, for example, to Ethiopia, where the unit price is only 6 cents. So there's a big gap between 6 cents to 150 cents. But I think we have plenty of renewable sources of energy. We have plenty of sun and we have plenty of wind. And I think with the cost of technology of producing electricity from renewable sources coming down all the time, I think it shouldn't be very far in the distance where we think, generate electricity from wind and the sun at a reasonable cost, as a competitive cost.
We have 2 seasons, during the year, and water comes and pours down, and then it just disappears to the ocean. And we need to catch that water to sustain life. We're almost at the tipping point right now, where if we don't really stop cutting down these natural trees, acacias and the thornies and all these existing trees, that we're going to look like the Arabian desert. So it's very, very important for us. We don't really have a program to replant trees. We would love to, but we just don't have the resources to do that. Maybe hopefully when we have resources, we develop our natural resources and we have available capital to do so, that is absolutely something we would love to do. But right now, at least, what we want to really do is to find a way to find a replacement for cutting charcoal, trees to burn for charcoal. We have to find an alternative for cooking. We cannot continue the way we're doing right now by cutting whatever trees. We're almost done with the trees. We're now digging up the roots. We're digging up the roots because there's no more trees. So we're blessed. We have some natural hard rock coal deposits in the country, which needs to be developed, and we're in the process of really trying to. We have companies that we have signed mining contracts with, to try and get this coal out, and then take out the sulfur, and basically put some of this coal, prepare it for domestic use, for cooking. And that way, once we have an alternative to basically for the people, you can't just tell people don't cut trees, and because they have to cook, and you have to give them something that they have to cook with. So if we are successful in getting our mineral coal out and basically develop that and be able to really kind of provide something for people to cook with, then we can save whatever trees we have left, in the country.
Our goal is we would like every citizen of this country to have access to clean and sufficient water. That's the first primary goal. And energy as well, we would like every household in this country, urban or rural, to be connected to the national network, to a national grid. Well, we have a national vision called 2030. So hopefully by 2030 we will achieve those goals.
En outre, l'État a besoin d'emprunter afin d'améliorer son système éducatif qui cependant reste l'un des plus aboutis de la région.
As I said, the cities were bombed and educational institutions, schools were not immune to that, and they were all destroyed. So when schools started here, according to 2001 or so, the enrollment was only 1,000, okay? Because there were no institutions. Today, the enrollment of primary and secondary schools exceed more than 250,000 students. And there are the 5 national universities I talked about have about 15,000 students. Now, that could be good news. A lot of students are going to school. The question is, where we going to get teachers? Where we going to get capacity spaces, because there are no enough spaces. So that's one of the great challenges facing universities. You don't have enough teachers, you don't have enough facilities. So that's a challenge that all universities that I mentioned face. Now the question is, okay, do we really need now massive international aid? I think it's time now that we ask for that kind of help. Not that we didn't ask before, we just didn't get it. And question is, what are you going to use for it? I think in my judgment, money is needed for the following. It needs for expansion of capacity of education. We don't have enough spaces for all 250,000 students coming in through primary education. And we only got 15,000 in the 5 universities. So that's a challenge. And international aid will help with that capacity building. 2, also, as you know, infrastructure is key to reconstruction and development of a country. We need infrastructure to be helped, roads and trains and things like that, because we have a lot of resources on the coast, and we need to develop that, and it requires infrastructure. The other challenge that is being faced by universities, the lack of employment opportunities for students. For example, this couple months ago, we had about 640 students graduating from Hargeisa University, and almost all didn't have the possibility of getting a job or gainfully being employed.
Le chômage touche la jeunesse somalilandaise de plein fouet. Mais un autre fléau guette le Somaliland, le khat. Cette drogue, traditionnellement consommée dans toute la corne de l'Afrique, est cultivée au Somaliland. Mais le meilleur khat est importé d'Éthiopie. Contrairement à l'idée largement répandue dans la région, le khat n'est pas un stimulateur mais un inhibiteur intellectuel qui détruit en outre le système digestif. L'argent perdu dans sa consommation est égal à la totalité du budget de l'État. Le khat est donc un fléau social, sanitaire et économique.
A tree that is not good for the health, to be very honest, it is very expensive. As you have mentioned, there is a lot of resources that is going out of Somaliland every day. I think the thinking probably in the long range would be how to curb it down. And I think we can do that by first focusing at the youth, especially at the schools, so that they will be enlightened with how destructive this is, how expensive it is, and how a drain it is to the whole economy.
Mais le Somaliland fait face à ces difficultés, notamment grâce à sa diaspora, généreuse et impliquée, dont certains membres n'ont pas hésité à revenir, laissant derrière eux le confort de leur pays d'accueil. Le Somaliland est l'un des rares pays du tiers-monde où l'élite intellectuelle revient.
A lot of health services and facilities were destroyed, and there was a need to do something about that. And I was working for the UN, and when I retired, I decided that I would come home and build a hospital and see how I could contribute to the health and welfare of my people. And I'm so happy that I did that, although a lot of times it's a nightmare. I concentrate a lot on the development of human resources for health, the training of nurses and midwives, because in my opinion, it is very important to train health workers who can work with compassion, who can work with in a professional manner. And I find that that is more valuable than any material things that I could have given. And we never had pharmacies in Somaliland before, and we have trained 281. And I wish that France would also send doctors to come and help us teach and train and cure and operate on patients. We have operating theaters that we're very proud of. We can do a lot of specialized surgery. So I'm extending a hand of welcome and an extend of friendship to French health professionals to come and see what we're doing right and see what we're doing wrong, and help us improve the care that we give to patients. Pourquoi pas la France?
The diaspora, it's estimated more than 500,000 Somalilanders, mainly in UK, in Canada, in the United States of America, in Scandinavia, the rest of Europe, East Africa, Saudi Arabia, and these countries. And the advantage is that, we have a remittance, system which we receive, from these people, which is nearly $1 billion, and they take part, and then intellectually, professionally, many of them go there, doctors, engineers, teachers, many of them go back.
And the reason really I went back to Somalia, because I could have stayed in the US if I wanted to, was to help my country.
Our people are willing to pay taxes, to the government. And that's what makes us a very strong state in terms of administration, in terms of depending on ourselves.
Mais malgré son budget bien géré, le Somaliland ne peut toujours pas emprunter de l'argent auprès de la communauté internationale.
And I think the mechanism is in place that we will not waste those resources. I think the infrastructure is mature enough, the government is mature enough to safeguard those assets and money and show something for all the money we will get. So yes, Somaliland is willing to accept massive help because we have proven to the world with no money we can build a nation, peaceful nation, democratic nation, okay? That's peaceful, that's doing things okay. But yes, we are open for help, and anybody who's gonna help our universities or our country, we are grateful to it.
We would like to have loans from the international financial institutions, but we can't because we are not recognized. We're not an internationally recognized country, and I feel that will come at some point. But at this stage, we have no access to financial markets such as the World Bank and IMF and that kind of stuff because we just have not, we don't have that facility because we're really not a recognized country. To tell you the truth, we have developed for 21 years without any outside assistance that is significant. We were left to our own devices and we pulled ourselves by our bootstrap and we did whatever we could to get where we are today. And if you were here 21 years ago and where we are today, you can really see the difference. And it's our resourcefulness, it's our diligence, it's our self-reliance that got us where we are today. And we feel that is what's gonna get us to the next level. I don't really think we're holding our breath to be recognized, and that's the only time you're gonna develop. We don't really see it that way.
I am volunteer. I take the Ministry of Education for incentive in a nearly $90 per month. We are working volunteers to build our state and our people. Even if 10 years or another 4 years, if it takes, we are happy enough to finish our life to support our people and country.
We continue to march on towards development with or without recognition, and we feel with time recognition will come as well. As a matter of fact, we feel we're going to be the 55th state in Africa in the not too distant future.
Une autre caractéristique du Somaliland réside dans son système judiciaire qui, comme dans son système politique, est un compromis unique entre tradition et modernité. Élaboré à partir de 3 systèmes différents empruntés aux 3 cultures qui ont marqué le Somaliland, le RER, droit nomade ancestral somali, la charia, le droit musulman, et la common law, le droit anglais.
Le RER, et c'est très intéressant, ne fait aucune référence à la religion. Et c'est ça la réalité du fonctionnement. La charia, c'est un modèle idéologique moderne. Quand je dis moderne, je veux dire qui date du XIIIe, XIVe siècle, en Somalie, et qui a eu assez peu d'application. Le fonctionnement de la société somalie, c'est selon le RER. C'est pas selon la charia. C'est un droit de nomade fait pour des nomades, par des nomades, pour le fonctionnement d'entités nomades. C'est-à-dire qu'il était parfaitement adapté à la réalité somalie. Il y a des principes de la charia qui sont repris, mais qui ont été laïcisés. C'est-à-dire sont des principes de la charia musulmane, mais c'est passé à la moulinette de la common law anglaise, et on a un droit qu'on peut qualifier de droit somalilandais.
De la même façon, les élections montrent un attachement à ce mélange de système clanique et de démocratie moderne.
C'est très intéressant dans le cas du Somaliland, où il y a des éléments de modernité extrêmement intéressants, c'est que la sociologie électorale est partiellement clanique. Et quand on voit par exemple les dernières élections, il y a 2 ans, celle où Silagno a été élu, eh bien l'homme qui était son rival, qui était l'ancien président, qui a perdu les élections, était un Gadaboursi. Les Gadaboursi, ça doit représenter au Somaliland peut-être 6 ou 7% de la population. Il a eu 34% des voix. Donc il y a plein de gens qui ont voté pour lui qui n'étaient pas Gadaboursi.
It's certainly fairly democratic. We have in the past described some of the elections as free and fair or a credible expression of the popular will. But there are elements of the democratization process that are not as far advanced as, say, the ability to run fairly regular, free-ish and fairish elections. There are some major problems. But yeah, in a sense, I think from the referendum in 2000, then 2002 local elections, 2005 parliamentary elections, 2010 presidential elections, I think we've seen a gradual ability of Somalilanders to know how to vote, what it's about, that they're picking their representatives, who may or may not be popular once elected, of course, but then that's fairly common throughout the world. So yes, my general impression is that the electoral track is going quite well. I think the subclan has a great influence on the way people vote, but I'm not convinced that that will entirely continue as much. Just now in these local elections, there are women candidates in greater numbers than ever before. The lowering of the age at which people can stand for candidates from 35 to 25 has meant a lot of young candidates. And we have had some conversations that what women should do is vote for the youth candidate and vice versa. So build a coalition built on the interest of those hitherto marginalised in terms of the electoral process. And that, to my mind, sounds quite good politics.
Le Somaliland est l'un des pays d'Afrique les plus avancés au niveau de la liberté de la presse, malgré des imperfections. En 2014, 2 journalistes somalilandais ont été emprisonnés avec un jugement tronqué.
But I agree with you, once in a while, there was one time misunderstanding with 1 or 2 journalists, between the government and these journalists. And they have been freed. They have been set free, by the government. Of course, relations, sometimes it happens almost everywhere, But as far as Somaliland is concerned, we promote and encourage the development of the mass media.
Waana free. Wax shuruuca ama maalinkan maanta wax aanu ku qabanno oo complicated ma jirto. Saxaafadeedu waa free wey. Constitution-ka iyagana way ku taalaa, sharciga ku taalaa, nidaamka ku taalaa in saxaafadu ay tahay free, dalka free ka tahay oo ay tahay more muxuu ahaayeen democratic. Waana runtii waananu ka duwanahay runtii dowladaha aanu jaarka nahay, for example Ethiopia, for example Kenya, Djibouti, aad iyo aad baanu uga duwanahay, waana inta qoraynu iibinay ee aanu caalamka inaanu ku soo jiidano.
Yes, we have freedom in price really. We write what we want. If we, saying something for government, sometimes government say that's wrong, but the freedom of speech and the freedom of prices is really very good for Somaliland and, it's leader for Horn Africa. I'm an owner for my newspaper and my website.
And then there are other things like harassment of journalists, but things that were good, particularly when the new government came in, was the abolition of the security committees, which could imprison people outside of due legal process. So their abolition has been, I think, a step forward in kind of line with the more civic, electoral kind of movements that we've seen.
Le Somaliland se trouve confronté à une autre problématique dans son essor. En tant qu'État non reconnu, il peut être attaqué par tout autre pays, en particulier la Somalie, sans aucune aide extérieure, d'où un budget de l'armée disproportionné mais nécessaire. Ironiquement, l'État ne peut même pas verser des pensions aux vétérans qui ont combattu pour la liberté du Somaliland.
Le ministre des Finances du Somaliland, Jess, qui s'arrachait les cheveux en me disant « Nous sommes très pauvres et l'armée me coûte entre 50 et 60% du budget à elle toute seule. » Et je lui disais « Mon vieux, tu achètes la paix. » Et il en convenait. Il me disait « Oui, mais c'est cher payé. » Je disais « Oui, mais la guerre serait pire. » Il n'y a pas beaucoup de pays en Afrique qui sont menacés de l'extérieur. Les armées sont des armées de coups d'État et de conflits internes. Mais le Somaliland, à cause justement de la non-reconnaissance et à cause du fait que le gouvernement transitoire de Mogadiscio possède le siège de la Somalie à New York aux Nations Unies, quelque part, ce gouvernement reconnu par les Occidentaux, soutenu par les Occidentaux, refuse l'indépendance du Somaliland et est prêt à bouffer le Somaliland, à le conquérir, s'il en avait les moyens, ce qui n'est pas le cas. Et par ailleurs, les islamistes, qui sont les ennemis des Occidentaux, que les Occidentaux combattent par la délégation des forces de la MISOM, etc., a le même but, aussi manger le Somaliland. C'est assez inquiétant quand vous êtes un petit État très pauvre du tiers-monde, de s'apercevoir que les pro-américains et les islamistes les plus fondamentaux ont la même idée en ce qui vous concerne, vous mangez. Il est bien évident que quand vous êtes dans une telle situation, le fait d'avoir une armée qui fonctionne à peu près, c'est pas négligeable. C'est une nécessité.
We spent a lot of money because of our situation and because of the fact that Somaliland is not yet recognized, and because of the fact of location, we spend a lot of money out of our budget on security. We have a very strong security system, as I said. We have professional army.
Invading Somaliland is impossible because Ziad Barre failed. He was the biggest army in Africa, and he failed to rule us. So Somalia will not be there. It's not there. If Somalia gets prosperous, we will congratulate them. We wish them from the bottom of our hearts they change their life of their people. It's very sad to see people being killed, see people being robbed. It doesn't help, it doesn't encourage us. It doesn't make us happy. We are sad. We want to see them happy. And we feel them, we request them to feel for us the same as we feel for them.
D'autres ennemis extérieurs menacent le Somaliland, les Shebabs, intégristes islamistes soutenus par Al-Qaïda. Mais ce mouvement a peu de soutien au Somaliland, car la population y est traditionnellement soufie et pratique un islam modéré.
We would estimate their support at no more than 2 or 3% of the population. But of course what's happened since AMISOM became more effective at pushing out Shabab from the areas they controlled, there's been a number of rumours that they're holed up on the Puntland-Somaliland border in the Galgala Mountains. Now, I don't have any verification of this, but whether or not they can survive there is one of the key questions. The popular will is fairly opposed to this kind of group, and historically, of course, this area was Sufi Muslim. It wasn't that influenced by the Wahhabism coming out of Saudi Arabia.
Une question s'impose et revient toujours. Pourquoi le Somaliland n'est pas reconnu alors qu'il remplit toutes les conditions?
Mais la raison pour laquelle il n'a pas été reconnu depuis son indépendance autoproclamée en 1991, c'est essentiellement dû à son adhésion à la Ligue arabe. Non pas l'adhésion du Somaliland, mais de la Somalie unifiée à la Ligue arabe. Et la Ligue arabe, elle, a ses raisons de ne pas accepter la dissolution d'un État membre. La création d'un précédent est potentiellement extrêmement dangereux pour la Ligue arabe. Et ça l'était déjà en 1991, quand le Somaliland a commencé à exister. Et donc l'idée qu'un morceau de la communauté des croyants va se séparer du reste, alors que déjà on souffre que l'ensemble de la communauté des croyants ne soit pas unifié, comme c'était le cas sous le califat, jusqu'en 1922, ah non, ça c'est trop. Le Somaliland est une grenouille dans un bénitier. C'est inacceptable. Du point de vue arabo-musulman, du point de vue de la Ligue arabe, c'est absolument inacceptable. Alors, comme tout le monde se moque complètement de la Somalie, du Somaliland, ce sont des pays qui, puisqu'ils n'ont pas de pétrole, ce sont des chameliers pouilleux qui errent dans le désert et qui meurent de faim. C'est vraiment pas au cœur des préoccupations géopolitiques des grandes puissances. Ni la Chine, ni les États-Unis, ni la Russie.
We have got all the grounds to be recognized according to resolutions of the African Union in the summit that took place in Cairo in 1964. The colonial boundaries, it was resolved that the colonial boundaries are sacrosanct, and Somaliland is based on the colonial boundaries. There is the government, there are the elections, the democratic process is successful. We have got the money, the passport, the army, and everything. So we have got every reason to be recognized.
26 June 1960, we say bye-bye to British. British now, they say they forgot that day even. They don't remember that when we were independent. Other countries like America who recognized us, they don't remember the date.
Pour rappeler cet oubli, il accepte maintenant d'être invité dans les réunions traitant des problèmes de la région. Toutefois, même en étant le seul État stable de la Corne de l'Afrique, il n'a toujours pas le droit à la parole, à la tribune.
And they both were in the London conference and the Istanbul conference earlier this year. It was looking at, issues of piracy, terrorism, stability, democracy, that was hosted in London. And I think Somaliland could be justifiably quite pleased that they were seen as a separate entity. They sat away from the Somali delegation. Join regional organisations, become an observer at IGAD, the Intergovernmental Regional Group, needs to kind of have regional liaison offices.
Quoi qu'il arrive, le Somaliland continue à se développer.
If we are not recognized for years to come, we have no regret. We will continue as we are, developing our country with the help of God. And we said, as before, we are like tortoise. We walk very slowly, but we know where we are going. We ask people, please come and see us. We are good friends. I think we like to have good friends. Try us. That's all we are asking people. Please try us. Don't throw us away.
From my opinion, I'm requesting from the world, Somaliland to be a part of the world.
samada hadkii dawaafayay igu degiyey dad qaadiya habar dugaag dabada iga heliyey shisheeya hadduu isdilo waabuu kala durkaa marada labadeeda dacal baa dabi qabsaday haddaba deqay dagaal kani maxuu ahaa oo maxay daantaa ku diidan tahay allagoonkii daalana dib uga caymadiyey oo hooyadii weer ku daashaday dibootayey raggii ay luguhu duub meen istamaqsayey